What is going on, beautiful people, listeners of the program? What's happening? Welcome back to the RPD show. Why did I say that so quietly? Welcome back to the RPD show. Right now I'm just talking to myself, but recording an episode today with a special guest. This is just been something that I've been doing here and there. This next guest I'm a huge fan of. She's a rock star in itself. We met for the first time at Good Looks Music Festival. I'll do a better intro of her later, but I'm excited to do this with Natalie Carr. Wow. All right. I guess it's not a mystery right now. I already did a little bit of an intro before I let Natalie in, but we are back and live on the RPD show. I am super, super excited to talk
RPD
with my guest today. I'm a huge fan of her work, and she's just a great person. And we met actually for the first time at Good Looks Music Festival, and kind of was like, let's do this. And I'm like, hell yeah. So long story short, we're here and we're about to talk music and life and all the good things, and maybe some bad. I don't know. Who knows? But
no, don't make me nervous.
I'm just kidding. But anyways, everyone, please welcome Natalie Carr, the one and only.
Hello.
Natalie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I had a really productive day.
Hey, that's amazing.
I had to package up my merch to send to people. By like color size, like wrote out all their addresses, and then realized people ordered shirts I don't have, which was uncomfortable. But everyone's been really cool about it. So that's what I was doing today, and it took me way longer than I thought it would.
Wow, that's a good problem to have, but I think that's really cool that as an independent artist, you're literally doing everything yourself.
Like very hands-on. I can't wait. I think the next time I do merch, I'm going to try to go through like a company of some sort, because it's definitely a lot, and it's not my strong suit. I'm not good at this side of things. So luckily it's not totally what I do all the time, but yeah.
It works for now. If it's getting to the overwhelming point, that's when you got to bring someone in, and hopefully they can, because you can't do, you can still put the what word am I looking for?
Like the love into it.
Yeah, you can still do that, but it's going to also be in someone else's hands, just because it's impossible to keep up with large quantities with one person.
It's a lot.
Luckily,
it's not a huge quantity, but even, it does take time to do that kind of thing. But it's always fun because at least now, like I get to give people like it's coming from me, it's coming from my home. And it's very casual. And I love that. I love, getting to know the people that like buy merch, you know what I mean? Like on a deeper level, if I don't already know them, it means the world to me. So it's just, the extra touch of being like, I'm doing this. Yeah. Like out of my house. Mm-hmm.
I love it. That's like, I don't know, that just builds so much because I think like it's so important to treat people like whether people are a fan of you or whoever, just treat people as human beings, whether if you're an A-list celebrity or just a fan going to a show. It's like, I don't know, people are going to remember that. And, like
100%.
when your moment comes, all these people that were buying your merch, in 2021, and they look back a few years from now, they're like, oh wow, I remember buying. I was there when she was shipping it from her house. That's so crazy. Let's go, Team Natalie.
100%.
So, yeah, that's what it's about. I love that. That sounds very productive. That's a challenging task.
A productive day. Yeah. How was your day?
I just went to work, and now I'm here, took a shower, feel clean.
Yes. Love that.
Then, off to doing other things, it's kind of like whether it's podcast stuff or just music stuff, just
never ending.
Yeah.
Always
There's always something that we got
Always.
going on.
Right.
So, but thank you for asking. What's so I saw you like we like met up for the first time about a month ago, I think, right around
Yeah.
that at Good Looks Music Festival. What
Yeah.
a fun and challenging and interesting time that was. But I mean, it wasn't challenging. It was fun. I'm not.
They're always a little challenging. I mean, I've only been performing for, the last year, I would say, and not even a full year that I've been like performing. My first performance ever was in June of this year. So it's interesting, I've played a few shows since then. There's always something that you haven't prepared for that goes wrong or fumbles like in the last minute. And I'm learning that if you just expect that something is going to go wrong every single time, it makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you just gotta roll with the punches.
Right.
I feel like that's the biggest. You gotta have thick skin. I feel like in the music industry, and just you gotta be able to accept what's happening and not. And I think the biggest skill you can really have is just learning how to react and not like let certain situations
like affect
overwhelm you or exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to master. I have not. I probably won't ever, but
that's okay. I mean, I don't think anyone really ever does. It's more of just. But anywho, what have you been up to since I last saw you? I saw you had a pretty awesome time in New York. You had a show.
It's so wonderful when people ask me about that, like just, being in and around Charlotte and like, I had such a great time up there. The show was awesome. It was with this company called Breaking Sound, and they do kind of like artist showcases in different cities. So I was in the one in New York, as well as they have like a radio program and I believe a podcast. And so it was just really, really fun. Like the other artists that performed were absolutely amazing. And I was so happy to like meet them in person and like make friends with them. And it was really extra special because my family could come. I'm from outside of New York City. And so I had, friends from college and high school that live in New York City that were able to show up, and it just meant the world to me. And it was definitely a different kind of nerve, because I have stage fright. Like every time I perform, it's always there. And so having done shows in and around Charlotte, for the past 6 or 7 months was like one thing, but then going up there and performing, in front of all of these people that I've known since like birth was like different. But yeah, been working on so many new songs. A lot of them are getting mastered this week, and I'm really, really excited to share them. And just other content, really. That's what I've been up to.
That's awesome. I'm glad everything went well in New York. That from what I saw, it looked like an awesome time.
Yes.
Big misconception though. If I live in New York State, but in Buffalo, that's 7 hours from the city. If I was closer, I probably would have been there. But it happens all the time where people will be like, "Oh yeah, you're close to this." No, I'm on the opposite side of New York.
New York is a huge state. I don't think people realize how big it is. It's huge.
It's ginormous.
Yeah, absolutely. New York is just a little dot in the very lower part of it, and people don't always realize that. So, yeah, but it was fun. It was nice to be home. Yeah.
Love to hear that. It's always good to be, with family and friends, especially people that just know you from, they don't care about
and like most
any
of
the extra stuff,
Like my parents have never seen me perform. I don't even think they've ever like heard me sing live.
Wow. So that's amazing then.
Yeah. So that was really special. Yeah.
I kind of wanted, if you really have an answer for it, but you sparked my brain with a question. What like how do you get yourself? If, you talked about dealing with like stage fright. How does that like? Are there any routines or habits that you do before the show to kind of get, or is it just like right when it starts you kind of get over it, or is it? I'm just curious because I'm not like a performer, but I hear that all the time from friends that are artists or just people in band. It's definitely not. It's probably very intimidating, obviously.
Well, I think that's so interesting because you talk to so many artists so often and you work with so many amazing artists, and to think that, you know, several or if not many of them have stage fright, that's comforting to me because I feel like a lot of the artists I know, it's like they were born to do this. They were born to be on stage. It's like where they're the happiest and the most alive. And I've noticed that once I ease in and get comfortable, I am so happy and electrified to be up there. And there's moments I just never want it to end. And then I've had other performances where I'm like, I cannot wait to get off this stage. I'm just like, fake it till you make it. And I haven't really found any strategies that work. I'm shaking up until I'm up there, and I'm just, I think, pretty good at hiding it. And I don't know if you're a vocalist, but it's definitely hard to sing when you're shaking, when you're nervous. It's almost impossible. But I try to practice through moments like that and get myself to a place where at least I can like look like I'm doing a good job or sound like I'm doing a good job until the nerves go away. Because if the audience is great, inevitably they will, because they're giving you such positive feedback and reinforcement, and you're up there and you're looking at them, you're interacting with them. So I mean, I haven't found anything specifically, but I imagine that it will go away with time. The more and more I keep doing it and putting myself in situations, I believe that it will go away. Maybe not forever. I'm sure there's performances even for major artists where, you know, I don't know, like Coachella or something, where they're like, wow, the stakes are so high today. And, you know, the Super Bowl for some of these people. But I imagine one day it'll really go away. Or at least that's my hope. And that's what I tell myself. But until then, it's just a condition that I'm going to sit with and work through and do the best I can, because I can't really change it, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, that's really all you can do. But I never would have known that if you would have.
Well, that's good.
So like you're good, very well at hiding it. But I that's wow, that's incredible. Well,
Good Looks was so fun. And I think part of the reason why, you know, in recent times, that was before in New York, that was the one performance I remember being like, oh my God, I wasn't nervous at all. I had the most fun up there. It was super dope. But it's because we had so many other artists that were in the audience and we were all supporting one another, and it just felt really right. Like it made me so happy to look out in the audience and see some of, you know, my artist friends from around Charlotte smiling at me. Like that was so validating, you know, because I think we need each other as small artists. Like, and artists in general need each other, and we need to support one another. And so I think that really just warmed my heart and calmed me down without being sappy. Yeah.
that definitely probably played a huge part in it. I could see. I mean, that was honestly probably the highlight of the festival for me. Just seeing everyone being friends and supporting each other, whether if you were on stage or Buxton was on stage or Trev or just all the other amazing artists. And it was just like such a community. Or even there's even some people that, you know, were there that weren't even performing, but were just there to support. And the community feeling it's you got to have that, you know, because it's tough to navigate, you know, and Charlotte has a good little thing going. I think there's a lot of up and coming talent, which is, I think, really exciting.
Yes. And it's such an honor to meet some of the folks you just mentioned, like for the first time or second or third, whatever, but to know that like we have each other's backs and we're all working really hard towards similar goals in the same place. And it's not in LA, it's not in Nashville, it's not in New York. It's, you know, somewhere that's a little bit more off the map or a little bit more off kilter, and just to know that we are supporting one another. That's really important to me.
100%. That's how you got to do it, you know, just support. Love and support goes a long way. Yeah, you going back to the stage fright. I don't mean to highlight it too much, but so normally I had a little bit of stage fright for this, because normally I like prepare questions, and you know we were talking, or like, how about Tuesday? I'm like, okay, cool, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's tomorrow. So I'm kind of just winging it.
I love it.
I mean, I'm good at keeping you know, I know how to talk to people, but so that.
I love that for you. I think we're doing great.
No, I know. We're knocking out of the park.
Yeah, totally.
I'm curious, like your upbringing. You said you're from outside of New York City. Mm-hmm. What drew you to Charlotte initially? Is it, if I'm not mistaken, you went to Duke.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I did my homework.
I was like, "Ooh," I was like, yeah, that's super specific. Yeah. So I went to Duke and graduated, and I kind of went there on a whim. I was in high school and I was working really, really hard in school, and I had like perfect grades, and I was president of everything, and I was like, I'm gonna be a doctor or a lawyer or something important and academic, and not ever to denounce those career paths. I think that they're really awesome. But I was like, I'm gonna go to a good school, and it's gonna be outside of this area. And Duke just seemed like a good fit for a lot of reasons at the time. I don't remember, but I had actually never visited North Carolina. And so the first time I came to North Carolina was the day I arrived on campus as a freshman. And then 4 years later, I graduated. And during that time, I thought I was going to do and be a lot of different things. But the one thing that was the most consistent and the one thing that was nearest to my heart was music and was writing music. And I knew if I never went for it, I would never forgive myself. No matter how much success I attained in other career paths or whatever like I didn't care. I just knew I had to try it. And so I started going to recording studios in Durham. And I was working with sound engineer Chris West, who's a good friend of mine to this day. And he moved to Charlotte. And so I kind of just followed him. I didn't really know where else to go. I was pretty young, and I didn't really think I would survive like Nashville or LA at the time. Like I didn't have money saved. I would totally be on my own, and I didn't have a song out there in the world. So I was like, I have nothing to my name. And so moving to Charlotte was only a few hours away from Durham, and I was like, that just seems like a natural solution, and that's how I ended up here. And then I just loved it, and I still love it. I love living in a city that's big, but it's not, and I know people, and everywhere I go, I see someone I know or a friendly face, and that's just the way that I've interacted with it since I've gotten here. And I found wonderful people in Charlotte to work with, but also outside of Charlotte as things came together and, a team started to assemble around me. But yeah, that's the short of it.
Wow. I didn't know that you kind of just moved out there on a limb like that. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they say risk it for the biscuit, you just, if it feels right, go with it. And
yeah,
seems like you figured it out and are really building, a solid foundation and just like community of people that like support you out there. And that's amazing.
Charlotte's awesome. Totally. Like I think people, and I get a lot even now of like, why are you here? Like, why wouldn't you now move to, insert city or, like a lot of people that live here are from here, or if they're not, they've moved here for some kind of corporate job or whatever. And I'm just kind of like here, but I've just, never where I am. I've lived in a lot of different cities. It's never really mattered to me. Like they all have their perks. They all have their highs and their lows, and people really are the same everywhere. There's good people. There's shitty people everywhere. And you can find friends anywhere. So I have found a home here, and I don't know if I'll be here forever. I doubt it, but I am like happy here, and it's been wonderful to be like one of the few female pop artists that are in this area. So I've been able to like have fans, because not everyone here is an artist, not everyone here is an actor. It's a good market for me, and I've kind of used that to my advantage.
I love that. I mean, you can always relocate to LA or Nashville or even back in New York whenever the time's right. But I think artists outside of like the major cities have such an advantage. Like I know the popular thing is just to move out to LA or whatever and sleep on a couch and figure it out and do all that. Yeah, that works for some people, but I really think it's cool to just be on the outside looking in. And I mean, I think Charlotte's music scene in general is just very up and coming. I mean, they obviously got a lot of attention for hip hop with the baby and all that, but there's just a lot of talented engineers and producers and artists such as yourself, or there's just a lot going on, I feel like. And once just in a few, like I feel like it's a few years away from like really exploding. Just kind of in a way like how, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this comparison a lot with like oh, Charlotte's the next Atlanta. But like I kind of see it like that, but I'm not trying to like be that person that says
Yeah.
that, you know.
But
But
that though, and when people say that, I mean, we're
no,
not geographically that far apart. We're in the
no,
same region of the United States. I mean, Atlanta has so much notoriety and so many amazing artists and such a rich and amazing history of music. And I think anywhere can be that. I really do. I think it's about, but that brings me back to like artists supporting one another. It's about making that community. It can't just be like a one off here and there. It has to be like, we're at least there's some level of cohesion. You know what I mean?
absolutely. That's how kind of cities rise because they have a pool of one. Like it's like not like to say like one. Well, I guess once one person makes it, then the kind of the rest do. I mean, but that's kind of how it generally works because it's just like you all collaborate on stuff and
Right.
it gets more noticed and blah blah blah. But it's exciting. Going more to a musical note though, I'm curious to hear about like I'm like first of all I'm a big nerd for like behind the scenes type stuff. So I'm curious to hear about your songwriting process and just like do you work with a producer? Do you produce your own stuff or are you more of just like with the pen game where you're
Yeah,
writing?
I do collaborate with one or two producers in particular, J-Mac and then Dylan Lauder, who's a mix engineer based out of Atlanta, but he does collaborate on a lot of the production that we do, as well as a few other producers. So if anyone's listening to this and wants to shoot me some beats or some sounds or anything, samples, go for it. I listen to everything people send me, or at least I try to. But as far as writing, sometimes it starts with me and a piano or a guitar. Sometimes it's just lyrics, and I'm like, I'll sit on them until I find like some production that'll match the vibe and then incorporate them. But a lot of times I am writing to beats. And J-Mac and I worked together for so long that he kind of like knows when to pick out things that I will like and gravitate towards. And then, I'll arrange it structurally to the way that like I hear it. And so definitely a lot of, lyrics, melodies, it depends what comes first. A lot of the times like the melody will stick out and I'm like, oh, that's super catchy. And then I'll, keep it a voice memo. As you know, like we all have like hundreds and hundreds of them on our phones. So it looks a lot like that. But lyrics, I'm always writing lyrics. And, anytime I'm in a situation, something comes to me, I'm writing it down. And then, with the potential to flesh it out later. But it definitely depends on the song. Like the one I'm working on today, I kind of asked people on TikTok, I was like, send me 3 words or comment below 3 words and I'm going to incorporate them into a verse of a song, which I didn't start. That was already a trend. But just stuff like that to like, get the juices flowing, get me in a creative zone and then seeing what I can do with it from there. Like I really enjoy that. I've always had an affinity for words and poetry and the way that words move and flow and what they can, elicit from people emotionally. It's very powerful. When you're talking to a friend and they say the right thing at the right time and your mindset changes in that moment and the lights go off. I really endeavor to like try to recreate that or give that to people. And I'm learning as I go.
Wow. I mean, that makes sense why you're, a singer-songwriter if you writing really clicks with you. But yeah. I've really noticed that about your stuff. Like I'm a huge fan of Blue Lights and Scrape Knees. It's just it feels very personal, which is like, I would say it's not rare with pop music, but I guess it's like the commercialized pop music is very like, I feel like they just try to make it catchy, and it kind of loses its personal feel. But like when I listen to like your music, I definitely like understand like, yep, that's authentic, like Natalie 100%. Like it's awesome. Something that like you're going through or,
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Crap. I had a train of thought, but I totally lost it. Been talking too much.
Oh, you're crushing it. This is awesome. I'm having a great time.
Glad, I would prefer to, do this. Like I brought my whole setup with me when I flew down to Charlotte, but
damn,
I was literally like just so busy that like I didn't even like I had I think like 4 or 5 lined up. I'm like, yeah, if we have time, like Manny, Tim, like I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
probably Chris,
Mm-hmm.
just it would be fun because the
True.
in-person ones are just a different vibe, not that this isn't a vibe, but it's
I know what you
I
mean.
don't know, it's just like trippy. You just like you're like talking and then you realize like, oh yeah, microphone's in front of us.
Right, yeah. Totally.
um crap. It was like something good too. This is upsetting, but I'm sure it'll randomly hit me when we're talking about something else, and then it's like, oh yeah, going back to like 10 minutes ago.
You know what I
So
mean?
sorry, brain fart over here. Um, shoot. Well, sorry, I totally
I have
just like
a
lost.
question for you.
Okay, hit me up. Yeah, let's.
So, are we is Good Looks happening next year?
From my understanding,
Me to talk about that with your followers on your podcast and just being a part of it. I didn't have a lot of insight into what was going on before or after. I know how much work went into it, just like the sheer amount of effort. And I took it as a super positive experience. So I'm just curious as to, like, your thoughts on it, reflecting on it now.
I thought everything went great, and I thought everyone did a great job that was involved. It's like such an accomplishment to like throw a DIY festival like that, especially when you see these lineups. It's just like they're stacked, and they have basically like a full on staff to just like
Right.
it's clockwork, and it really was just like four of us or five of us really. I think like it was Audrey, Donnie, Manny, and myself that
Right.
really. There's other people that are involved and things happen, but um, I thought it was a super positive experience. And from my understanding, it's happening again next year. That's not an official announcement, but obviously they have to figure out if it's going to be the same venue or where it's going to be. But from my understanding, they're trying to, we're trying to go bigger and better from,
Right.
take it up a notch. And, um, but there's things to figure out. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm
It
assuming
wasn't
it'd be,
a festival, so
what's that?
it's not Fire Festival.
Oh no. I would be very upset if I was involved with something like that. I would like apologize to everybody. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Ryan.
Because that's just not that's not okay. You're asking people to perform and put their time into it, and then it's just like it's not up to par.
With
There's
the
not like a
dog. Mhm.
professionalism in there.
Right.
What I really tried to pride myself on, just because word travels, and just it's
Totally.
people remember how you treat them. That's the biggest thing.
They sure do. Yeah.
Whether it's just you're being polite and kind to someone, or whether you're having a shit day and you take that out on somebody or whatever, and it's just like you ruin so that's what I always try to keep in mind whenever I'm out there and just working with people, just because, or even when I'm just on email with anyone, just shit happens. That
Yeah.
that's the perfect motto for the field that we work in. But um but yeah, no, I'm excited for what's to come of that. I think there's a very bright future there. It's I've never been like a part of something that was so organic, like literally from like the start of it, I guess. Because I've done a couple festivals where it's just like you're working with like this, like for instance, Good Looks, and I did Lollapalooza in July, like two completely different things, but like still the same like experience, I guess.
Right.
So, but no,
Yeah.
thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It was a super positive experience, I think, for all the artists. We had an amazing time, and I was just thrilled to be a part of it. So,
Hell
yeah,
yeah, that's what I love to hear. I'm glad everyone had a good time. I mean, that's what it's about,
totally.
especially with the performers. Got to make sure they're taken care of.
Happy campers.
Yeah. um, I think it just came back to me. Oh, you know what it was that I was gonna
What?
transition into? It hit me. Um, artist artists or bands that like influence you as a person or just like your sound, and like who would be, based on that question, like would there be any like dream collaboration where you're like, oh my god, like that's I can't believe I would get to work with that person. Like I'm curious. This is just such a interesting question to me, like when I talk to people that make music, just because it's like,
I know. It varies so much, and I always say, and it's like kind of a cop out. Like I listen to everything. I listen
that
to fucking everything. Like I listen to every genre. I'm not, in or not into anything. I like everything. Like I grew up and I loved country music and like indie rock and alternative rock and punk and grunge and metal even, like back in the day and like pop punk, and now I love pop music too. And then I like had an affair with like EDM. I was like, ooh, I was into that for a brief moment in time, and obviously love R&B, love R&B music so much. And so, by genre, there are people that really stick out to me. But I'd say personal influences that like not even to compare myself to, but people that really inspire the music that I make would be like a Tovlo in the pop lane or alternative pop lane, because I think she's really badass and just like she's an amazing feminist character, and her lyrics and her songs are just so good, and she says what she thinks and she writes it down and it becomes a record. And I think that I pull from that. Like I want to say things that are not necessarily shocking or revolutionary, but that are honest, at least to me. And I don't want to shy away from the words that, that are in my head. And then SZA, just beautiful music, and, her melodies, her voice, all of it inspires me. And then I was talking to someone about this today, but Post Malone, I think that would be a dream collaboration just because I love the music that he makes. And I don't rap, but I do like to sing sometimes without structure, like rap sing is what I like to call it. And that's not in every song, but it is in some of them. So like Sad Little Rant would be an example of that, is a song of mine that's out. I think that doing a record with Post would be a dream come true, but there are just endless artists that I look up to and respect, and they're all different. They're all really different from one another. I've been a Rihanna fan my whole life, but who hasn't? I'm obsessed with her. Yeah, the list just goes on and on and on and on. I think doing a collaboration with a band would be really cool too, like a full band that exists. Can't think of any at the top of my head, but I'm sure I'll think of them when we're not on this call. But yeah, I mean, I respect music in every genre and category, and I really do like to write it in every genre. And so just, I can't wait till like those doors kind of open up a little bit more and a little bit more, and I can have, more wherewithal in terms of who I can collaborate with, because I'm really looking forward to it.
wow, that I love that, just because I feel the same way as like a a big music fan. Like it just depends on what day or mood I'm in. But
Right.
as someone that creates, I think that's just like the coolest thing ever, because it's like you gotta. I feel like you got no matter what you do, you got to pull inspiration from kind of everywhere. Just a little bit of from here, a little bit of there, and then you can kind of really make something special.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And the Post Malone thing, I when you said it, I kind of could hear it. Like you guys would definitely sound good
Yeah.
together. Just like,
It's random as fuck, but I feel like it could work.
oh yeah. I mean, I hope one day that we can look back, and you're just like, remember when I said that? Yeah, that just it happened.
Yeah.
I'll be like,
Right.
oh,
Real can dream.
yeah. Don't forget about me. Shoot. um,
Never.
no, thank you. No, that's cool. Who knows? That's I think that's such a cool thing about like being creative or whatever, or even just doing something like this. It's like you don't know what can happen. Like
The world's our oyster, man.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, being a content creator or whatever, podcast person or just whatever, you know, or musician, artist, singer,
Totally.
you know, I mean, the what do you think about like the marketplace? I don't know if you like think of that too much, just like because there's like with like the emergence of TikTok and just like I feel like there's artists that just are band just someone new's coming out of the woodworks like
Every
they're
day.
yeah, so it's like the competition or just like not that the market's saturated, but there's just like a lot of like really talented people out there. I mean, I think that's a product of like the internet, just being so open and
Yeah, I think
our phones,
definitely like a stressful idea, like as an artist, and like it it does feel like that, and like it sucks that even to say the word competition, but it is true. We'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't look at it through that lens at least part of the time. And there are just so many talented people out there, and the cool thing about it is that so much of it is in our hands. And I think a lot of major labels are scrambling because they're like not able to control the narrative for everybody anymore. Like people can do what they want, and these artists can be independent, and they can survive, and they can make money, and they can sell merch, and they can go on tour. And I don't know, it's a really interesting time for music. But I think if you look back at like the last 70 or so years, like when has it not been, like when has it not been this new thing is introduced and now things are changing, or this new thing is introduced and now things are changing? There's always been that. And so, I mean, I'm no expert, but I just, try to like think about it in that way. Like there's always going to be the next new thing. There's always going to be the app now or whatever. Like there's always going to be talent, and not everyone can make it to the top. But I think what's cool also is that so many of us are like, we don't have to. Like
no.
you don't. Like you can be a really successful artist and songwriter, and maybe only 7,000 people buy your shit, But if they're loyal to you and like you make a living, like who can look at you and say that you haven't made it? I mean, it's really different for
Yeah.
everybody. But I think artists need to decide for themselves like what makes them happy, and what limits that they're, wishing to attain, and when enough is enough. Um, yeah, but it's a really good question. I don't know the answer to it because it's stressful.
I mean, that's just such an interesting perspective just because like just at least in my lifetime it's like I remember I got I was in first grade or second grade, elementary school, young elementary school kid. I got a Walkman with an NSYNC CD. That was
Hell
my
yeah.
first. That was my bye bye bye. That was my jam. That was my jam back then. Still is if it comes on. I'm like, oh shoot. But anyways, from the evolution from CDs to I think the first, if we want to call it a streaming service, Napster was
Yep.
like a big thing, and then kind of the piracy thing happened with like LimeWire, and that's
I
when everyone kind of went into a panic.
LimeWire.
I'm not gonna say I'm not, but don't come after me, feds. I was just a young kid. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then the whole LimeWire and iTunes kind of went hand in hand, like because it was like you had to buy music, not instead of CDs, and then people found out how to download it, and then the blog era, just like how songs would be released on blogs, and then obviously then the streaming services, and now we're kind of like in like the TikTok wave of I don't know. It's based on what you said, not the rant too long here, but it's kind of like you gotta like I feel like it's all about adapting and like just like being aware of what's going on. I don't know. I'm not as in deep in the creative process, obviously, so I kind of like look at it from afar. But
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean the technology, the way technology is advancing. It's like,
Totally.
but yeah, that could be another hour-long segment. But cool. That's a good refreshing take from you.
Thank
That
you.
uh, no problem. what one thing I always ask any of my artist friends or anyone I really have on the show, you can answer this question, as deeply or just as lightly as you want to. But I love just like talking about mental health and just like as a creative and all that. Is there any struggles that you go through or any, as I mean, you kind of alluded to earlier, just like with, I don't mean to highlight again, but stage fright and just, I guess the anxieties of being an artist or whatever, but is that like something that you go through or deal with as being a creative person, or is it just, or like, I don't know, it's a weird thing to ask somebody, but like, I don't know, I'm always curious just to like open that discussion, just to show like people that really listen to you and support you, that like, you're just a real human too. So feel free to touch light on that as you may, or if you don't want to answer that at all, that's so totally cool, but I'll
I will say there. I've had mental health problems since I was like treated for mental health issues since I was like 15, 14.
Okay.
And if I think back to even earlier than that, there were things going on that were obviously unaddressed because you're a kid and you're like, I don't know, you don't even have the vocabulary to express the things that I'm feeling and the things that are going on in my head. And so I'm very open and very shameless about everything that I've experienced. And I think as these things apply to being an artist, like, of course, you're activated more. I don't want to say than the average person, because I'm an average person. We're all average people. But I think if I were working a 9-to-5 or any kind of other job, I can't say that the stresses would bring out, other sides of my mental health and it would affect other sides of my mental health. I don't know because I'm not living it, but I think being an artist and like being in front of people and being in front of a camera constantly and having to just promote yourself all the time, it can be really draining and depleting and taxing and tiresome. And sometimes it can feel very fraudulent because like say you're performing a song and it's a happy song or it's a sexy song or it's a sad song. Like that day you might be happy. You might be feeling all kinds of things. There's so many things going on in your life and in your head, and you kind of just have to like put that on a back burner and be somebody else. And you wear a mask for so much of it. You're wearing a mask when you're meeting people and you're up and coming. You have to, act like you have it together. You have to have this air of confidence, and it can be very fucking fake. Like, to be blunt, like it can just feel very inauthentic. And, a lot of the times I look back on the last few years and the things that, I've been through and things I've done and accomplished or not accomplished. And there's so much self-doubt and self-hate. Like I should have done this. I mean, there's just a multitude of things that being an artist, presents to you. A lot of it being comparison as well. Like we talk about a new person on TikTok every day just gets lucky, and that day their song goes viral. Now they're, X, Y, and Z, and their dreams are coming true. And that is endless. And you really tend to internalize it and be like, I suck, I'm bad, I'm awful. And that can like really wear on your mental health if you don't have a way to kind of combat it. And so, yes, I would say that it does go hand in hand with being an artist, but fundamentally the reason I started writing songs and the reason that I had an affinity for music growing up was because I was sad and because I was lost and I was scared. And so, when I think back to being a little girl or an adolescent or a teen, I think about that and I think about why I started this to begin with. And then, then it feels more authentic and genuine than just wearing a mask. I don't know. Kind of took a turn, but
no, that was really good. I mean, thank you so much for opening up and sharing that, Natalie. That I'm sure there's a lot of insight in there that anyone that's listening can kind of take away. At least that's what I love about podcasts, which is kind of why I asked the question. Because when I listen and I hear someone that I really admire, or just like look up to, and hear them open up about just like human shit, it's like, oh, well, why am I so hard on myself then? Like, right. So-and-so is like just a normal human being. It's all, you know what I mean? So it's like, I always try to like, not that that's like giving back, but it's just like a good, fresh perspective. Cause I'm sure there'll be people listening that may come across your music for the first time or are a fan of yours and will appreciate that, insight. So no, I thank you for being vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Sorry, I keep burping.
Okay,
um,
I haven't even noticed.
it's hard for me to go an hour. I burp a lot.
Oh,
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I think it's interesting. Like where I was 2 years ago, if I saw where I was now, I'd be like, oh, that's so awesome. Like you did all these things. Like you must feel so good about them. And then a lot of days I really fucking don't. And I think every artist, like every time you reach a new high or you do something cool or you accomplish something, the next day starts, it's on to the next thing. And there's not really even a time to reflect and have gratitude unless you're forcing yourself to do it. And then you're comparing yourselves, yeah, to people, other people up and up and up. And it just, you can never win. There's always a next level or a next echelon that you have to achieve or surpass, and it's so fucking draining. And I'm sure it's like that in every industry. Like people feel that no matter what they're dealing with or who they are. And yeah, I mean, I like to speak to that because I'm no picture of success necessarily, but I work really hard, and a lot of times that work does go unnoticed, or I don't get the things that I want and I work towards, and that's very human. um, and yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbles.
a lot of truth said there. It's always on to the next thing, or like
Yeah.
once you hit a peak or a goal, then it's like, okay, how can we
Yeah.
go even better? As sometimes you just need that time to like really enjoy it or reflect. And that's something I've been better at recently. Just even just like after good looks, I just took some good time to like not even dive into anything, just like go to work, enjoy myself, like life is life. And then,
Yeah.
or even with this podcast too, it's like when I first started, I was just grinding it out, like new episode every week, like boom, 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 boom. And then like I burnt myself out kind of, because it was like I felt like I was forcing myself to just like ask people to be on it, even if not that I didn't want anyone on it. It just was like I was like forcing myself, like, okay, who can I get on or whatever, as opposed to like a new approach I took with it is like, for instance, I want to have people on that I really want to talk to. So
Right. Right.
whether it's I release an episode every week or every couple weeks, or I'm just going at my own pace and enjoying it. I don't know. It's all trial and error. You got to figure out what works for you. I would do a new episode every week if this is what I was doing full time and making
Right.
some sort of income off it. But it's a fun thing. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad though that you shared that.
Like my happiest days are the days where like like I'm recording a song, or I cracked the code on a song. I'm like, oh my god, like I wrote this lyric and I've just been trying to figure out what the fuck to put there, and I like got it, and I'm so proud of it, and it doesn't matter what anyone thinks because I'm proud of it. Um, or like when I learn something new in my software and I like get good at it, and I'm like, oh my god, like I feel really good about myself, and it's music related. It's not external shit. It's I like this song and I wrote it and I'm proud of myself, and that's gonna be enough for today and tomorrow. Um, and it's really hard because that does get lost in translation with the external shit. But under all that and that aside, like this is the stuff that makes me happy, and this is the stuff that makes all artists happy. We wouldn't be doing it, we'd be doing something else because it's
That's
too hard.
yeah.
Being an artist is way too fucking hard. It's really hard. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. And if I didn't love writing songs and making music, I would not be doing this.
Right. Because it wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't be worthwhile. And I think that's why you really see artists or rap, anyone doing anything fade out if they're doing it for the wrong reasons. Just because like they don't have that spark that that love that keeps them going. It's like they
Right.
just are in it to. Well, I think people learn. Trying to make it music. It's not. It's not a get rich quick or any of that. It takes a lot of work, a lot of really the whole what do you call it, that saying of like putting the 10 years in before
Yeah.
like you really see it. That I
Yeah.
feel like that's so true with music and the music industry and all that. Like you really got to pay your dues and figure it out. It's so that's all fresh. Anywho, what do you like to do, like more of like in your like Natalie Carr's like downtime. Like I don't have to do music, or I'm taking a break. Like, do you like watching shows or movies or reading, or what? What are you into?
I like reading a lot. Don't ask me what I'm reading right now
Huh.
because I don't even know. Like I mean, not recently. I've been
Yeah.
busy. Like I do enjoy reading. I'm like holding my shoe. Um,
Oh, good.
I
Shout out to the
horror
slides.
movies. Yes, I'm slamming. I'm so excited. I love horror movies so much. All times of year. I fucking love them. I fall asleep to them. Um, I wouldn't say I love to work out. I don't want to say that because it's not really a part of my external identity. It's just something that I do and I don't do it every day, but I do like to be active. I like to run and lift weights. What else? Man, I love to drink beer. I love beer. Was bartending for most of my like early 20s, and I worked at a few breweries, and I still work at a brewery part-time. And I love it. And part of the reason I do is because I love beer. Like I just love it. So I love having time to like go get a beer with friends. It's like my favorite thing. And I love to eat. And I like to eat out. I wouldn't even say I'm a good cook, but I really like to eat. That's where all my money goes, to food and bev. Those are the things I like to do. And I really like to spend quality time with people, and I'm very social. So I do like to go out and see people, and that gives me a lot of energy. I would guess I'm extroverted. It gives me a lot of like, because so much of like my day is spent at that desk and like making content and be like, oh, like I have to go do this, and it can be kind of isolating. It can feel a little bit alone, and so I really like to like balance that with like being social. Yeah. I'm just a regular old girl.
Yeah.
Likes her beer.
That's so cool. I'm a big fan of beer too.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I didn't even know that. I think that's so cool. I mean, just I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's so many other options out there, and like beer is such like a classic. I'll 10 times out of 10 drink beer if it's available over like I'd rather much drink beer than like a liquor, or like
Ooh,
I mean I do love my tequila, but like beer.
Yeah. I agree. Totally. There's nothing better than, I just love the carbonation. I love beer. I don't know what it is. I've loved it. Even when I was little, like I would take sips of like my dad's beer, not in like a drunk way, just like I like the way this tastes. Like it's bread and soda. It's like the two best things, and they're just combined, and they get you buzzed. And yeah, I don't know. I'm a lightweight too, so I don't need to have like, like a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to drink 10 beers. I'm like, well, I don't. I drink like 2, and I'm like having a great night, and then I go home. So obviously I'm really passionate about this, my stance on beer.
I love it. I'm here for it. What's your favorite? Like that's tough because there's like a lot of like there's good, that's like one of my favorite things to do when I'm out of town is try like the local, because honestly, one of my favorite things, I love going to breweries and eating and drinking beer. So
really, it's just like such a nice like pastime of the last like, I don't know. I mean, breweries really like microbreweries only really like blew up the last like, I don't want to say this because I could be wrong, but I think like the last 10 to 15 years they've gotten really popular. And of course they existed before that, but there was definitely a bubble of them. And I think, like having a beer with friends and eating pretzels, like that's just like, I'm going to look back on like my early 20s and I'm going to think of moments like that, and I'm going to like want them back. And I already know that. But my favorite style of beer it's hard to say. I like all of them, but I really love sours and mixed culture beers, so like the funky ones. I really enjoy those. And I really love like pilsners. Just anything in the lager family that's like clean. And I love saison. So a lot of the like fruitier stuff or lighter stuff I love, but I do like IPAs and I do like dark beers. It's just those tend to be a little bit heavier. Yeah.
Right. You can only have a couple of those or one, and you're like, okay, I need to move on to something a little more light and crisp,
Mm-hmm.
But that's awesome. I didn't know that. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah.
Next, we'll have to get a group together and grab some brews next time I'm in town.
Next time you're back in town, we have to.
For sure. I'll definitely, that'll be cool. I'm
We'll do it.
That's my jam right there. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Super easy. That's the, hang out, have a conversation, drink a beer or two. See you later. Or, depending on the scenario, if it's like a party or whatever, it's like, oh, drank too many beers. Yeah, but that's cool. Yeah, I think we crushed it. I don't really have anything else. Those are like everything I kind of had. The last thing I really have, I always do this. I call it closing thoughts. It's kind of like your time. Either you have questions for me or just you want to just like shout your shit out and this is where you can find me. This is what I want to say. Or like, not like an announcement, but like just like be on the lookout for music soon. See it, follow me, whatever you want to do. But like it's like the ending of the show.
So. I will say thank you so much to Ryan, who's the coolest person ever. And I'm so happy that we're like new friends.
100%.
Finally got to meet. And I can't wait to like work with you in the future. In whatever capacity, we'll figure that out. But definitely follow me on Instagram. It's Natalie Carr Music. That's Carr with 2 R's. Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, et cetera, and just message me if you were introduced to me on this podcast, because that's like my favorite thing ever is when people say, hey, I love your song, and then they tell me where they found me or where they found it. It just feels very full circle. So absolutely shout me out, shout Ryan out, and just thank you again so much, Ryan.
The pleasure's all mine, Natalie. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for being brave and taking a chance on my podcast. But
I love your podcast.
Thank you. It's only right with the last name, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I will talk to you soon. Much love.